You've been lied to about money your entire life. And the worst part, you believed it so completely. You're still defending the lie, right now. Even as your bank account proves you wrong, month after month. Here is the part that should terrify you. You probably make more than Ronald ever did, maybe double, maybe triple, and you're nowhere close to 8 million. You might not even have 8,000 saved right now. So what is the difference between you and a dead janitor who never broke 25,000 a year? It is not your salary. That is the lie you've been swallowing. The lie that says you need 6 figures before you can start building real wealth. The lie that keeps you waiting for the promotion, the raise, the big break that is going to finally let you start saving. Meanwhile, Ronald was getting rich on janitor money, while you're staying broke on professional money. The formula that made Ronald a millionaire is so simple. It sounds stupid when you say it out loud. Income minus expenses equals cash flow. That is it. That is the entire game. But here is where it gets brutal. If your expenses equal or exceed your income, you will work until you die, not might, will. The math doesn't care about your degree or your job title or how hard you work. Zero cash flow means zero wealth forever. Most people hear this and immediately start thinking about how to make more money. Wrong move. That is still the lie talking. Ronald didn't chase income. He controlled the other side of the equation. Every dollar he didn't spend became a soldier in his wealth army. Every unnecessary purchase you make is a soldier you're killing before it can fight for you. Think about fitness for a second. Everyone knows the formula. Eat less, move more, simple, but you're still not doing it, are you? Because knowing and doing are separated by a canyon most people never cross. Wealth works the same way. The formula is simple. The execution requires discipline you probably don't have. And that is not an insult. That is just math looking at your bank account and telling you the truth. Take a $65,000 salary, standard middle-class income, nothing special. If you save 10% of that, you are looking at 51.4 years before you can stop working. 5 decades of alarm clocks and commutes. But bump that savings rate to just 15%. A measly 5% difference, and suddenly, you are done in 42.8 years. You just bought back 8.6 years of your life for the price of skipping a few restaurant meals. Think about what you're trading. 8 years. That is not an abstract number. That is watching your grandkids grow up versus missing it because you are still stuck in a cubicle at 67. That is the difference between retiring healthy enough to travel and retiring too worn out to enjoy it. Now let's talk about where your money actually goes. The average American burns through $18,000 every year on stuff they don't need. Not rent, not groceries, not healthcare. Pure discretionary spending on things they'll forget about in a month. Break that down, and you are looking at $173 on takeout every single month. That is $2,076 annually. That could be compounding. Instead of turning into trash in your garbage can 3 days later. Ronald Read drove the same beat-up car for decades. Not because he couldn't afford better, because he understood something you're still learning. Every dollar you spend today is a dollar that can't work for you tomorrow. And when you are making $22,000 a year, like he was, every single dollar counts double. But here is where it gets really uncomfortable. Your age right now is determining how hard this is going to be. Start saving at 20, and you need to put away $24 per month to hit millionaire status by 65. That is less than one dinner out. Wait until you are 30, and that number jumps to $443 per month. Suddenly, it is not so easy anymore. Hit 40, and you are looking at $1,300 monthly. At 50, you need $2,795 every single month just to catch up to where you should have been at 20. These aren't suggestions. This is math, cold, unforgiving, compound interest math, assuming 7% annual growth and 2% yearly increases to match inflation. The numbers don't care about your excuses. They don't care that you didn't know. They don't care that you thought you had more time. Your boss sells you this fantasy. Diversify your income. Start a side hustle. Drive for Uber on weekends. Sell crafts on Etsy. Work overtime. Get certified, and you do it. You are grinding 60, 70 hours a week, across 3 different income streams, thinking you're building security. But here is the trap. All 3 streams require you. The moment you stop showing up, the money stops. You are not diversified, you are just exhausted. Ronald's janitor salary was $22,000 a year. That is the labor stream, capped, predictable, completely dependent on him trading hours for dollars. If he got sick, fired, or too old to push a mop, that stream dried up instantly. The system loves this arrangement. You stay busy, you feel productive, and you never accumulate anything that works without you. But those 95 stocks, that is the other category entirely. That is ownership. Companies making money, whether Ronald showed up or not. Dividends hitting his account while he slept. Share prices compounding while he was at work, mopping floors. The wealth gap isn't about who works harder. It is about who owns the machines versus who operates them. Look at the math they hide from you. You make $65,000 a year. You cut expenses to $3,000 a month. Great discipline. You save $600 monthly. Now add a side hustle. Another $400 a month. You are at $1,000 saved. Sounds impressive until you realize you are working 50+ hours a week to generate that. You've increased your labor output by 25%, but your savings only went up by 67%. Diminishing returns. There is always a ceiling to how much time you can sell. But $1,000 invested at 7% annual returns. That is $1,070 next year, without you lifting a finger. Then $1,144.90. The money starts working. You don't. That is the separation point. That is where the wealth class begins, and the working class gets locked out. The average U.S. household carries $155,622 in debt. High-interest debt, credit cards at 18%, 22%, sometimes 29%. And here is the genius of the system. They convinced you that debt is a personal failure, a character flaw, proof you're not disciplined enough. But debt is a business model. It is how they extract wealth from labor income. Before you ever get a chance to convert it into ownership, you can outrun 18% interest with 7% returns. Mathematically impossible, so you stay trapped in the labor loop, working more hours to service debt, which prevents you from ever buying assets, which keeps you dependent on labor income, which generates more debt. It is a closed circuit. And 90% of people never escape it, because they too busy hustling to see the design. Ronald didn't hustle harder. He redirected his cash flow into 95 different ownership positions. Boring companies, utility stocks, consumer goods, businesses that made products people bought every single day. He wasn't gambling on meme stocks or chasing 10 times returns. He was buying tiny pieces of the machine. And over 50 years, those pieces compounded into $8 million while he kept mopping floors. Day trading is the perfect distraction. It looks like investing, feels active and exciting, but 90% of day traders lose money because they're still operating in the labor mindset. They're trading their time and attention for potential gains, constantly reacting, constantly working. Real wealth doesn't require your constant attention. It compounds while you're doing something else. So here is the question nobody wants you to ask. If building wealth is really about hard work and multiple income streams, why do the hardest working people in America, the ones with 2 and 3 jobs, never become millionaires? And why do people who own assets, who might work 20 hours a week managing investments, end up with generational wealth? The answer is uncomfortable. One group is being systematically harvested. The other group owns the harvesting equipment. Every 2 weeks, when Ronald's paycheck hit his account, he moved money before he could spend it. Not after paying bills, not after seeing what was left over, before. The transfer happened on payday, same day, same amount, like clockwork. No analysis, no waiting for the right moment, no checking if the market looked good that week. You know what kills wealth? The gap between receiving money and deciding what to do with it. That is where the new shoes happen. That is where the slightly nicer dinner happens. That is where $8 million evaporates into, I'll start next month. The action is this. Open your banking app right now. Set up an automatic transfer, payday to investment account. Pick an amount that makes you slightly uncomfortable, but won't wreck your rent, then forget about it. Not inspire yourself about it, not check on it daily. Forget it exists. Ronald lived through 11 market crashes. 11 times his account value dropped, like a stone. 11 times he could have pulled out, waited for the bottom, tried to be smart about it. He didn't. The automatic transfer kept running. Every 2 weeks, crash or boom, recession or recovery. The University of Michigan tracked this. 41 years of market data. They found that 96% of all games came from just 85% of trading days. You know what that means? If you're on the sidelines, trying to time your entry, you're probably missing the days that actually matter. Andrew Stoes ran the numbers on a 10-year period. Miss the 10 best market days in that decade. You lose 66% of your games. Not some games, 2/3 of everything you would have made by just staying put. The market doesn't send you a calendar invite before it jumps. It moves fast. Your money's sitting and checking, waiting for you to feel confident. That is not strategy. That is just expensive hesitation. Ronald kept adding to his investments every 2 weeks for 50 years. Not because he was disciplined, because he removed the decision. The money moved before his brain could interfere. Stop refreshing your portfolio. Stop reading market predictions. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect moment was 2 weeks ago. The second perfect moment is your next paycheck. That is your exit, right? You're not locked into one decision forever. You're not betting your future on picking the perfect stock at the perfect moment. You're building a system that survives your mistakes because you spread the risk so thin that no single failure can kill you. Most people never start because they're terrified of being wrong. They wait for the perfect entry point, the perfect strategy, the perfect guru to follow. Ronald didn't wait. He read free newspapers at the library. He asked his neighbors who worked at banks how money actually moved. He bought an $8 book and extracted decades of someone else's experience for less than lunch cost. Education isn't about spending thousands on courses that promise to make you rich by next quarter. It is about consistently feeding your brain cheap, high-quality information until the patterns start making sense. The wealthy don't hoard secrets. They hoard habits, reading, asking, testing, adjusting. You will buy something stupid. You will panic sell at the wrong time. You will look at your account in 2008 or 2020 and feel your stomach drop. That is not failure. That is the cost of entry. Ronald's fortune wasn't built on perfect decisions. It was built on decent decisions, repeated for 50 years, while everyone around him gave up after their first bad quarter. The question isn't whether this works. A janitor making $22,000 a year proved it works. The question is whether you'll still be moving money 2 years from now when nothing feels like it is happening. Because that is when most people quit. Right before the compounding kicks in. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to time the market. You don't need a finance degree. You need to set up the transfer and let 50 years do what 50 years does.